Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
And let's start where we were born and raised.
I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania on February 23rd, 1926. Dad bought a farm in Syracuse, New York, then we moved there. Of course, then the Depression came, then he lost everything. And then my grandfather told us to come in to them and he'd find us a place to live in. So then we moved from Syracuse, New York to Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. Okay. We're about 14 miles from Philadelphia. And that's where we stayed, and Dad finally got a job, and my one sister. And then we stayed there living for a short period in one home. Then we moved out to another home. And in the meantime, Grandpa, who is a stonemason by trade, was building a home. He was building a home for his sister, which is my mother. And he put up this beautiful 3-story brick home on an abandoned quarry. I mean, if you walked out my back door, you shoop. And then that quarry got filled in. Conshohocken was putting their sewer system through town. So all that dirt and rocks and stuff, they asked if they could dump it there. My father said, yeah, you can fill it in, but make sure it's down in the hole. So they were doing it. Then I would go after school. One day I got from school, went over there, I thought, I can't do this.
Sounds like
Oh, my God. The one driver was afraid to back up. So he dropped here. Next guy couldn't get back, so he dropped here. So we had all his dirt up on top. So my dad went to the manager that had control of that, says, you got to stop dumping. And then he wanted to know why. And my father told him, he says, well, my son came to shovel all that dirt down there. He says, you shovel? Yeah. So he went with my dad and they seen it. He says, oh, he swore at this guy. He said, he's so afraid to back up a truck. He said, don't worry about it. He says, by tomorrow morning, I'll have you cleaned up. You won't have to push no dirt. So then they came in with a bulldozer the next morning and they leveled that right off. 1, 2, 3, and they were done. So then they were dumping till they pretty well filled in the quarry.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Conshohocken High in Conshohocken.
Okay. And that's in...
I went to a Catholic school for 8 years. Okay. I went to St. Mary's Catholic school for 8 years. Then I went to public high school because the only Catholic high school was St. Matt's, and I didn't want to go there.
Where were you on December the 7th, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor?
I think I might have been working. I think I was working at the glass company at the time when that hit.
How did you hear about it? How did you hear about the attack? Was it on the radio?
Well, yeah, I just heard people talking about it, and I heard it on the radio. And, of course, it didn't mean much to me. I was still a youngster. So it didn't really mean much to me until I started getting bearings that they attacked it. They practically destroyed us over there. I was 16 years old, and I tried to enlist, but my dad wouldn't sign the papers for me. He wouldn't listen.
What was his reason for not signing?
He just didn't want me going to service. He just didn't want me going in here. But when it came time, I had to go. He had no choice. So I went to go in. Then I went to recruiting station, and I got there. The guy says, what service you want? I said, I want the Marines. He says, well, I don't know if I can get you in there or not. He says, we're not taking too many Marines in them. most of the guys are Navy. He says, but I'll see what I can do for you.
Okay.
So he come back a couple hours later. He says, I got you in the Marine Corps. He says, you'll be a Marine Corps guy by morning. So that's how I got in the Marine Corps.
So you happen to be a Marine, right? So
Yeah, and then I went from Philly to Paris Island, where I'd done basic training down there. Then from Paris Island, they give me 2 weeks off. And then they says, when you're done, you go to Boston, Massachusetts, to the Navy Yard. So that's where I went. I went to the Navy Yard to Grand for doing duty at the gates, watching people and stuff. And then I was there a while, and they finally says, well, we're going to send you over to the naval station, over to the air station. And then that's where they sent me over there. I was over there doing the same thing, watching gates, and then I had a patrol to do on the island. I had to get up, and then I had to walk the whole island beach, because one day they found a dead guy on the beach. They didn't know where he came from. So from then on, we had what we call beach patrol. So every so many hours, I had to walk, and another guy had to walk. And then Nimitz came through. He says, I only want two kind of Marines, those that are over and those that are going over. So that's where I got packed up and left.
So Admiral Nimitz said that.
Yeah.
Where was the first station you worked from?
Well, then from there, they sent us down to Quantico, Virginia, is where I went. We were there for a short period of time. And then they says, pack up, you're going to train, you're going to go west, going to San Diego. So we got aboard the train and then travel across country all the way until we got to San Diego.
Long train ride, right?
Yeah, and then we got to San Diego. They put us right aboard the ship, one of those Kaiser Liberty ships, that they built in 8 days. And there was 3,300 of us on that ship. And
all Marines or Navy too, or Army?
It was all Marines. They put us on that ship and they left. We left. Well, we had a little bit of escort going out of San Diego. We only went out, I don't know how many miles. Then we had no protection. All we had was 2 guns, one in the front and one in the back, and that was it on the ship. But we got across. We went to Guadalcanal, and that's where they formed the 6th Marine Division. Okay. The only division ever formed outside the United States. All the others were formed within the states. But 6 was formed out in Guadalcanal. So we were there for a while. And then one day they come, this is for us to get our gear together and stuff and pack up. We're sailing, but they wouldn't say you're where. So we got back on LSTs and then after, I guess we were about maybe 3 or 4 days later, they came and they says, well, you're going to Okinawa. You're going to be one of the first to land on the beach at Okinawa. Well, I didn't pay much attention to that. I thought, well, so I'm going to land on the beach. So we got in smaller boats to go from the big ship over. And the guy sort of stalled coming inland, and he couldn't get started because the way the clip was, he couldn't make it. So we had to crawl out the back. I was up the water up to my waist. And then we got aboard and we got on land. Then we just headed straight ahead like we were told. So we were at what they call D+8. That's 8 days after we land. We were at D+8. We were 8 days ahead of schedule where we were at. Matter of fact, we were there within 4 hours. Well, we didn't have no opposition. There was nobody stopping us. Nobody was getting shot or anything until we started. We got there. Then that night, they said that in the morning we will go north. So don't unpack too much because you're going to go right away, swing around and head north. So that's what we done. We waited till morning. Then we turned, and we headed straight north.
You know, the Stars and Stripes article talked about how you had 2 Purple Hearts. Tell us about the first time you got injured.
The first injury came on Sugarloaf Hill. My company attacked the Sugarloaf Hill. And I was up at the top with my friend alongside of me. And I used to call him Pop because he was 33 years old. And here, I'm only 20, but I used to always call him Pop. So he was alongside of me, and we were there. And I don't know how long we were at this spot, but he was throwing these Japanese grenades back at him. Japs would throw one, he'd grab it, and he'd throw it back at him. Their grenades are not very accurate when it came to explosions. Some would explode right in their hands sometimes. And next thing you know, he says, damn it, he says, my rifle's jammed. I says, just take it easy. I says, you work on your rifle. I'll watch it if anybody's coming. I said, if anybody comes.
Were you in a foxhole?
Well, you can call it a foxhole. It wasn't much of a foxhole because it was rock, some shell blew it open. So when you're in there, unless you're laying almost flat, you were exposed to anything. We were on that hill. Then he was working and he got his rifle fixed. He said, I'm okay, I got the rifle fixed. In the meantime, I looked off to my right and I could see these 4 Japs trying to come up over.
So the Japanese soldiers were...
Yeah, they were coming up over the side off to my right. Yeah. So I didn't, for a split second, I didn't know what to do, but I quick went to automatic fire, which means I could fire until my cartridge ran out of ammunition. So when I done this, I turned over and I fired. I seen 4 guys just drop. So I know I killed them. Or if I didn't kill them, I wounded them bad enough that they fell over. And shortly thereafter, my buddy was still throwing grenades back. Then all at once he hollers, duck, bomb. So I sort of turned a little bit. And by the time I turned, this damn thing went off. So I got blown out of this little hole, and I must have rolled down over the bank, because when I came to my senses, I was up at the bottom of the hill. I was down there, 2 Marines were walking up. And they said, come on, you got to get out of here. I said, I can't get up and walk. I said, I can't get up on my feet. So I got up and I put my hands around her neck. And that's the way they got me back to an aid station or a hospital.
So your injuries were like shrapnel in your back?
Shrapnel in my legs, in my back. I had some that went in the side of the foot all the way back towards on the inside. That's why I couldn't walk, because every time I put my foot down on that shrapnel, it was cutting. And at the hospital, they finally got a lot of it out. They didn't take all the shrapnel out of it. They operated, got what they could. And I was in there for, I think, like 29 days. So after I got 29 days, I got up and guy come to me. He says, "Well, here's your new weapon." He says, "You got to have to use the M1." He said, "Can't give you a BAR. We don't have any." I said, "Okay." I says, and he said, "You can go back to your company." So I went back to my company. Well, my company wasn't there no more. They were all complete strangers. I didn't know one kid from the other. So we were on this hill. I said, "You guys separate a little bit. I'm going to look over the top of the hill and see if I could see something." As I started down, I just turned around, and these guys are getting together. And I swore something awful. And I said, "I told you guys separate, not to get together." I said, "Spread out so you're not a target for nobody." So they start separating. And then I'm there waving my hand at them. And the one guy hollered on, "You better get down. That sniper's going to get you." And then I hollered, "Oh, he can't get me." About that time, my hand was up here. And that's where he hit me over here in the arm. So I just pulled up my sleeve, and all I seen was a little hole over here. So I just went to the chorus. I said, "Just put a patch on it. It'll be okay." And then when he done that, he turned my hand a little. My hand just from here on went dead. So from here on down, I was paralyzed. I couldn't feel nothing, or couldn't even close my fingers or nothing. So back to the hospital for the second time. So that's where I stayed till that healed. When that healed, they say, "You go back to your company." He says, "They're down on the mountain. They're down there." He said, "You get down there, you'll be able to find them." So I got down there. The war was basically over, okay, supposedly. So I got down there. Oh, I seen General Booker. So I walked over and I saluted him, and I says to him, "Does he know where my outfit's at?" And he hesitated for a minute, and he turned. He says, "I think that's your company right there." I says, "Thank you, sir." So let him turn around. I took about 12 steps, and then I heard bang. Heard his sniper shot and killed Booker. He was the main ball. He was running the whole show in Okinawa, but he was the only one that got killed.
So you were that close to him, right?
Yeah, I was just, not shaking hands. I saluted him and that. And as I walked about 12 feet away when I heard his bang, and everybody's hollering, "Booker, Booker," and they're all running for him. I thought, well, then later I was thinking, that job was either waiting for him or he was looking for me. I walked away, and Booker was in the way, so Booker took the bullet.
This is your first time visiting Pearl Harbor, right?
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
didn't you come Pearl Harbor?
Oh, this is actually the second time I'm there.
Did you come here before you went back to the state?
No, I went to, from Okinawa, I went to Guam.
Okay.
So we were on Guam for a while. And then the captain says, 35 of you guys, I'm sending 35 guys home aboard a DE. So that's how we got aboard a destroyer escort. And then we came into San Diego. And then, of course, the rest is me traveling home and going back to Quantico, Virginia. And that's where I got discharged.
I read in another article that you had actually spent a half a night aboard a ship at Pearl Harbor because you didn't go ashore, right?
No, we came in here. The ship pulled in. It was about 8 o'clock at night. The guy says, "You can go ashore." He said, "But be careful, because if you don't know, you'll get lost." I thought, well, I'm not getting off at 8 o'clock at night and looking for something that I don't know where I'm going to be. So I stayed aboard the ship till we sailed about 5, 6 o'clock. We sailed out of here.
This is your first trip to Hawaii?
This is my first trip on solid ground.
It'd be your first trip to the Arizona Memorial, too. Yeah. So let me talk to you about a couple of days ago when you had the activities.
We were at the Marine Corps base.
Okay.
So we were invited there. So I thought, well, it's nice we get invited for. So he says, you're going to get invited for lunch. So I thought, all right, so we'll go eat. And, well, it was a shock to me because I walk in. Here's the general there. His right-hand man is there. And about 60 Marines are there. Oh,
all in uniform, right?
Well, they were in uniform. They were in their khakis. And that brought tears to my eyes because I couldn't believe it. The general there has complete control of
General Walford.
All this area is under his control. He was there and his assistant was there. And he had about, I guess, good 60 Marines were there. And they're all saluting me. Well, that brought tears to my eyes. I thought, I'm not here for any glory. I just want to see these places. But he stayed with us until we were ready to leave. And then he presented me with an American flag that flew on Okinawa that he gave to me.
That must have been special.
Yeah, that's special. It's going to stay special.
What sort of activities did you do on Okinawa this last couple of days ago?
They took you to the beach where you landed.
Yeah. Did you tour the beach where you landed?
Oh, yeah. Well, we went up near that beach.
Did you visit any of the caves that the Okinawan people were staying in during the war?
Well, I didn't go. She went looking somewhere, but she wouldn't go down. One cave they found, there's 700 people in it. People, Okinawans, all were living in these caves, trying to keep away from the Japanese. Because the older Okinawans, they didn't like the Japanese at all. Japan moved in, took over control, and then you either worked for the Japanese or you're going to get shot.
You live in a cave too, right?
Yeah, so they had these people so scared that these people moved into these caves, and that's how they were trying to keep away from the Japanese.
I want to tell you a story. This young man right here, his grandmother was in the caves.
His grandmother.
Her name is and she recently passed, and we had her funeral, was well attended, and she told a oral history just like you're doing.
That's how they kept away from the Japanese. They hide in these caves.
How do you feel about going to the USS Arizona Memorial this afternoon? What do you think your emotions are going to be?
I'm going to just feel so sorry for the people that were aboard that ship that couldn't get off of it in time. Not really realize it was that the Japs would attempt even something like they did do. And then I look back, I think, well, why didn't they land? Well, now I know why they didn't land, because if they would have landed here, they would have had their hands full, because the people here wouldn't have put up with it. They would have been probably doing all kinds of sabotage and everything else against the Japs. So I think that was one reason they didn't do it. And it's so far from their homeland to transfer back and forth. So I figured they just hit and run. They done all the damage they could do, and they just went off back again.
Well, I want to thank you for your service. We're going to accompany you this afternoon on the trip to the memorial. We're going to go with you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add about your recent trip to Okinawa?
I'm happy I was able to get there. When they got me to Sugarloaf, I thought, well, I ain't going up that hill because I can't get up there. So they said, you stay on the bus. We're going to put your daughter in a wheelchair. So they took her in a wheelchair and they wheeled her all the way up to the very top of this damn hill. And then they come back down with the wheelchair, and then they took me back up there. And they showed, but the only thing is, they built 2 big hotels, so they took most of the hill. There's only a small section of the hill that is not nothing except this stone memorial that they put there. They wanted to build there, but then the government, Okinawans and the United States government forbidding on that land. They said that land will never be allowed to have anybody build on it. So it's one little portion, and it may be if it's a quarter of what it was at the most, that's visible, that you can go and visit.
Well, when you tell people you're a veteran of the Battle of Okinawa, do a lot of people know Okinawa, or do they still kind of know what happened there?
They would talk about it. I'll tell you, the people over there are really nice. I mean, though they couldn't speak your language, you managed to get something across to them that meant something to them. Every time they'd see you, you see this bow, and that's their way of greeting you, and it's something to see, and it's really nice. It's something you don't expect to find.
When you were there in the war years, did you ever go inside one of those caves, or did you?
I was in one cave. We were on a plateau. I guess we were east of Sugarloaf. We weren't at Sugarloaf yet. We were sort of away. And I looked at it and whoa, there was an opening here. So I hollered at the guys. I says, I'm going to go in here. And don't you guys shoot at me. Because I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to come back out, but I don't know where I'm going to be coming out of. So I walked in there. I walked in maybe 100 feet. Then I seen this cutoff in it, and I thought, oh, I better watch. Because I had to walk this way. See, I'm down so damn tall. The Japs didn't build their tunnels high because they're all short guys. So when I'm walking like this. I'm trying to watch where I'm going. So I got to this one room. Finally, I snuck up. I looked, oh, nobody's in here. I said, that's nice. So I walked out of that room, went to my left and walked down a little bit, walked across another room like that. Finally got...
Where somebody was living?
Well, I don't know. To this day, I don't know. The guys think it was probably a resting place for their Japanese soldiers. I walked down one more. I went and I thought, well, better not go no further because I don't know where these openings are. So I better go back where I was. So I turned around, headed back out. So I'm coming out, I hollered at the guys. I says, it's so-and-so. I'm coming out of the hole. Don't shoot this way. So I got out of there. They got with the guys. And I was telling the guys about it. I says, we don't want to go in there. I says, there's nothing there. So there are 3 rooms I see were open. But I couldn't tell you what they were. I mean, you didn't see no medical stuff or nothing like that. So,
but you related that a couple of days ago, the Okinawan people were very nice to you, and when you were in the war, you must have felt sorry for them having to go cave to cave to.
Well, caves they were like this one. This was a well-kept cave. They had to dig their own caves to make these holes, and. This thing the Japanese had there, the guys, they must have worked on that 40 years before they started the war. Because it was just a room after room. I'm sure there was more than what I've seen even. But I just didn't walk. If we had more time and maybe more guys, I would have went further. But by myself, I didn't trust myself going too far.
You started this interview by saying that this is probably going to be your last air flight to Hawaii, or
this will be our last flight. We will fly from here directly to Newark, and then from Newark I get picked up by a cab there, and he'll get me to Reading, Pennsylvania, and that'll be it.
One final question: what's your secret to a good long life?
I have no idea what I'm doing. I was doing was right. Evidently living right, I guess. I don't know. or my wife was taking good care of me, I guess. Because my wife and I were married 70 years.
Yeah, my dad and mom were married that long.
Yeah.
They both.
Yeah, you don't see too many living.
Well,
Then Dad, I call him Dad because my dad was deceased then already. I used to call her father Dad. I used to call his mother Mom because I didn't have a mother she died when I was 7. My younger brother was 14 months old when she died. She died of a massive heart attack. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, this gets cherished. That showcase ain't going to be big enough for all of these.
well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed enough that I talked to you about what I could say to you.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Up in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see TA free and WT free. That's a father and son. Both of them served together on the Arizona. Both of them died on December 7th. Both of their remains remain aboard USS Arizona to this day.
Tell me about today, the Arizona Memorial and the reception you got from the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Army.
It's out of this world. I didn't even expect it this year. And I got to thank all of them for coming out for me. I'm not looking for any glory. I was just done what I had to do, and we figured we'd done what we did, and I want to come out here to pay respect to those poor guys that never even stood a chance to do anything. But they give up their lives for their country anyhow.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.